Hello and welcome, Mel, to the Conscious Early Learning Podcast. I am so grateful to have you here today. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you for inviting me on. I'm excited to be here.
Should we just get straight into it?
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear from you how you got into the work that you're doing today. Explain to our listeners exactly what it is that you do. And yeah, just a little bit of background would be awesome to set the stage.
Well, oh my gosh, what do I do? I do a lot of things. I have just finished training to be a therapist. I've been in training for the last 5 years, and what kind of led me to that was having a really shit childhood and traumatic experiences and battle with addiction and really just like a long drawn out healing journey of like 20 years. And in 2020, as the rest of the world was crumbling, like literally I was emotionally crumbling, and I just started uni or my psychology degree. And yeah, that kind of led me into what I do now, which is trauma work and body-based work, because once I got into training in the psych and therapy, I was able to see why I had been looping on my healing journey for so long, because of it's not actually that I know there's like all this, info out there that they don't care about us and blah, blah, blah. Actually, what I found was that there is a lot of therapists and psychologists and that really do care about people, but what we're being taught is not holistic. So I kind of went on my own journey and started learning. I double majored in an anthropology degree. So I did like natural healing systems. I just deep dove into everything, Chinese medicine. And on that journey, I started to find my body and working in meditation and bringing somatics in. What's quite interesting is a lot of people think I was trained somatics, but I actually intuitively taught myself and then went and learned it. So it was all kind of like the crumbling of myself and beginning to invite movement in the body, emotions into the body. And yeah, now I only really work somatics, body-based healing and emotion healing. And yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm doing at the moment. I'm kind of just flowing where I'm being pulled. I love working in the community. I love sharing stuff online to inspire people. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. Was it?
Oh, yes. And that's funny because I actually thought that initially I thought you were trained in somatics as well, because it's such a game changer in your work. Like, I've been on the receiving end of a lot of your courses and programs and had some one-on-ones and things in there. And yeah, up until a couple of years ago, I was the same. It was all mind or going into therapy and talk therapy, but it's not until you really go into the body you can find where those emotions are fully trapped. And I think, yeah, you provide such magic to the world. Even that little blurb is just such the pinpoint of what you do.
One day I literally just thought I need to work with my inner child. And so I started meditating to my inner child. And something that I started to notice was that my mind would go to certain scenes, and I would find it would be the same in talk therapy, where that loop would start, right? So one day I just asked myself, like, certain words, where have I not felt worthy before? Where have I not felt? I just started to invite the beliefs and the emotions into the body. And from there, I would travel to memories that I hadn't thought about or didn't even know were an issue for me. And so I started working only that way with myself. And it was such a game changer. And when I just did this year at uni, it was really interesting because emotionally focused therapy is what I've taken interest in, along with somatic therapy and internal family systems. A lot of the stuff that is the foundation of those therapies are some of the foundations of the things that I've already been doing. So now I've just been deepening into emotions and body, and it's just been, so transformational. Like, still a place for talk therapy, absolutely, but bringing them together like that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear from you what self-regulation is and why you believe it is so important, especially for those of us who are parents or early childhood teachers, anyone working with children.
Okay, where do I want to go? Let me just think for a second, because regulation has many lanes in my brain. So
exactly, it's a good one.
So self-regulation is kind of like a bit of it's like nuanced, right? It really depends on the person and the situation. Regulation is so important, especially if you're an early, teacher or something like that, because your energy, and we're going to talk about the attunement later, but between the children and you, there's that energetic attunement. So if you're dysregulated, the whole environment around you, you can tip that whole environment. But also if you are regulated, you can begin to regulate the whole environment around you. There's also other things like that doesn't get talked about much, which is trauma transference. And we talk about it as in sometimes teachers might be working with, children that are coming from abusive homes or traumatic environments. And there's been studies that show that the teacher can actually begin to feel the trauma. You can have that transference between, so they might have never experienced it, but they actually begin to have the trauma symptoms. So if we can see that coming from the student to the teacher, the longer a teacher stays dysregulated, or a caregiver or a parent, that can actually transfer onto the child. We talk about generational trauma as in DNA, the generational addictions, trauma, the beliefs that are passed down, but there's also just you in the present moment. What are you transferring over? So when we're working from a self-regulated place, we're more present. We can't stop transferring everything because we have too many of our own beliefs and too much subconscious shit going on. And we're not meant to. We're not meant to worry about that, but we can do our best parenting. But there's also another lens of self-regulation doesn't always mean calming yourself down in the moment. It's also important that we teach the children to express and let it out, because if we regulate in the moment, the surface level regulation, there's like the internal primal part of regulation in here, and then you've got the surface. What are people seeing on the outside? Okay, let me take a breath, look calm, let me ground myself, let me get my shit together. But deep inside, not fully regulated. What could make you have that surface level regulation faster is actually expressing it and moving it, and also allowing children to do the same. That's how we can also self-regulate.
Absolutely.
And self-regulation to everybody will look different. For me, closed curtains, dark room, blanket over. For my son, middle of the lounge, throwing his arms around. He doesn't want to be alone. It actually doesn't help him to regulate when he's alone. My daughter Kenzie likes to go to her room and be alone. So self-regulation will also look different to everybody, but it's really important that, sometimes, let's say you're in the middle of a classroom or you're in the middle of the mall, you can't just be like, let me express it out. So you do need to do the surface self-regulating where you can calm your breath, slow your breath down and all that stuff. But it's important that still later on you go and address it so that you're not, especially for mothers, we build up that rage. That rage is so connected to our nervous system, is just my opinion on it.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point to put out there, and not letting it get stuck in the body to be like, okay, I'll address it later. Actually, no, I'm regulated because I've done my deep breathing and I've done my grounding, and that's something that I've gone into within the Calm and Connection course that I'm doing, and that's heavily supported by your work, is going in, if you've got capacity to, in that moment, like doing a game with the children, go shake your sillies out, because we're all just needing to move some energy, or as you say, coming back to it later on. And there's something that you speak about, the window of tolerance, and how that directly impacts like everything in our emotional world. Could you please explain how things, when they're left unresolved, can push us into those different stress responses of like hyper-arousal versus hypo-arousal?
So I got a couple of things coming to my brain. The first one before we get into window of tolerance is that, like, if we self-regulate in the moment, but it's just pushing it down, we have to remember that children are energetically connected with us until about 8, sometimes longer, depending on their emotional intelligence and their own developmental. I would say that my son Riley, who's autistic, who's 11, is still very energetically attuned to me. My mood shifts, he feels it and he notices it. So when we are leaving things unaddressed energetically out here, you can't see my hands because of the screen, but when you're leaving it unaddressed, children are so intuitive to energy, and they're also egocentric. So when they're 8 and less, it means egocentric, means selfish. Everything happening in their world is their fault. So it's really important that when we fuck up, or when the energy is off or our mood is down, we actually acknowledge it and address it to the children, so they know it's actually not about them. Children are so black and white. You give them the honest truth within context, appropriate truth. Mummy's feeling really angry right now. I actually don't know why, but I think I just need to go and, and they get it. Or you lose the plot at them, and instead of, having a rage yelling fit at your kids and then calming yourself down and then coming back and acting like nothing happened, coming back and going, hey, I actually, I'm so sorry. I'm just feeling angry today. That stuff is so important, I think, when we're also, the energetics of self-regulation.
100%.
Yeah.
I actually do that with my son. If I do kind of lose my shit, or I catch myself where I've, snapped or said something that I wish I hadn't, firstly, that self-compassion, I feel like that is a form of self-care. And then addressing it to your child and just being I'll say to him, I'll be like, sorry, mummy shouldn't have spoken to you like that. I said, I'm feeling really angry. I need to go stomp my feet, or need to shake my body, or should we just turn on the music and have a dance and let's reconnect. And I have to rein myself in a bit sometimes, because he's not even 3 yet. So, but he's so, as you say, emotionally attuned that he can actually receive that on a very basic level. I think we don't give children enough credit sometimes, just in general, in mainstream, I guess, of how much they really do comprehend and understand, whether that is on an intellectual level or more so on an energetic level. So voicing that, whether that's clearing the air energetically, it really can make the world of difference.
They're just, if you think about, they're currently in a process, if you think about it energetically, emotionally, spiritually, that is the period of time when you're getting imprinted on your blueprint. You come here with your soul blueprint, and then you're experiencing imprints. You might not understand it at the time, there's so many different levels of this, but later on, those things become what you do, or they become what you believe, or your perspective in the world. So even if they can't, understand it, it's okay to still do it, because it's imprinting in them. So it's what are you imprinting, Okay, window tolerance. So window tolerance, there's 2 ways that this works. So with unresolved shit, so if you're just not dealing with your emotions, trauma, anything like that, your window of tolerance, you might already be at the full capacity in there, which builds low resilience. So if you're a teacher or a parent and you're at the tip, you're about to fall out the window, your kid can send you over. So when we go into hyper, we're going out, that's dysregulated, upregulated. We're going into anger, reactiveness, anxiety, a lot of moving. This is, the mind loves being up here. When we go into hyperarousal, and everyone is different, a lot of this also connects with your are you fight, flight, avoidant, anxious. A lot of that relates to how you will react. But there's also hypo, which is when you down regulate, where you begin to dissociate. This is connected with depression. So a lot of people with depression will go down, down, no motivation, can't function, maybe can't bath the kids, can't have a shower, just low energy. So if your window of tolerance is, sometimes it might be small and you might go out of it, so low resilience, but sometimes your window of tolerance might actually be big, but you might have not processed all of your stuff. So and you're full and you're going up or down. There's also another factor of window of tolerance when you're not dealing with unresolved trauma and unresolved emotions or beliefs, is like, this window isn't healthy or unhealthy. It's your state of being. It's your homeostasis of what is normal for you, not unhealthy or healthy behavior. So what you normalize in your window of tolerance is really affected a lot by what you have unresolved, your perspective of the world, and what you normalize state of being. So for people that have, don't have a lot of unresolved shit, it's probably quite healthy in their window of tolerance. They have a lot of resilience and they're probably teaching healthy coping habits, right? And it probably takes them a lot to get dysregulated. For people that don't have that, they might be normalizing a lot of shit in there. And so that's another way to look at window of tolerance, is like, you might not get dysregulated because what is dysregulated to other people might actually be within your window of tolerance, normalized. Yeah. It's so interesting, isn't it? And would you say that out of the fight, flight, freeze and fawn responses, everybody obviously has a different go-to, but can you flip and flop between, or how does that all work? Do you usually like have one that you're always going to default to? I would say that you definitely have like one that is your most dominant, but it also is impacted by other people, the energy of other people. So for me, I've always been an avoidant. But at the start of my relationship with Chad, once I let the walls down, I think he brought out the anxious attachment within me, when no one else had ever brought that out. And that was because he is an avoidant too. So we had two avoidants. So it was like learning that. And, like a secure person, if you are an anxious person, might actually create that little bit more of security. And emotionally focused therapy, what's been quite interesting for me to learn is that these things, attachment styles, can actually be repaired, which is not something that I've really heard about before. But attachment style is all about having a secure base and a safe haven. So that means a secure base to go back to when you're frightened, and a safe haven for you to feel safe, right? That's what a person should be. If you haven't had that modeled to you in your younger years, you don't have that internally. It's nearly impossible if you haven't experienced that as a child, if you don't have a secure, healthy attachment, to have that inside. And if you can't create the safe haven, secure base inside, then it's really hard to create that outside. And so then, you'll have different people will trigger it. But when we learn to work within, we can actually shift the way. So I've found that I am definitely still subconsciously avoidant, but I would say I'm working more towards securely attached now, which has been really fascinating.
It's amazing. And credit to a lot of the inner work that you have done over all of the years and the different things that you've found that have worked for you.
Yeah.
Would you be able to just speak into like a few different self-regulation tools? Obviously, as you said, they're all, different depending on the person, the energy and all of that. But are there some basic ones that we could kind of go through for our listeners?
One of the most favorite ones that I like doing is like a heart connection, because I just find that when we begin to open our heart, it's quite healing on so many different levels. A lot of the time when we're in our response, we're very closed off. And when we're closed off like that, our perspective can be closed off. The way we view the world, we can miss opportunities, connection. There's so many different ways that it impacts us. So I like to ground myself first, and then envision my body slowly opening from the heart space with breath and pushing that as far out as I can. And while you're doing that, you want to be breathing through your nose, in and out the nose slowly. That connects to your sympathetic, your parasympathetic, which is calming down, regulating. If you're breathing through the mouth, It's a sign. I've actually been saying to my partner, because he's been snoring lately, and I'm like, your nervous system is stressed. And he's like, no,
Yeah.
no, like, he's like, I'm not stressed. I'm like, your body's telling me different. The mouth breathing
Yeah.
is your stress. Nose is when you're calm. So the fastest thing you can
Mhm.
do to regulate yourself is to bring in nose. But then there's also other times where just inviting in movement. Sometimes it can be slow. Like if your
Mm.
inner child is triggered, something I find really powerful with my clients, one-to-one clients, is actually like holding and moving, like a mum rocking a baby.
Right.
Because
Mm.
depending on which
That's
part
soothing motion.
inside you is triggered, that might be what you need. Do you know, actually, funny story, when I
Mm.
went to the Awaken breathwork, I literally just felt like hugging myself, and then I got tetany, and my avoidant brain's like, let go. And I'm like, fucking let go. And then my body is like holding on tight because I had tetany, because obviously I needed that. Because I don't hug people. I'm not
Yeah.
affectionate. I'm not an affectionate person because I never received that as a child. I never once got hugged or told I was
Mm.
loved. So for me, people in my physical space is like so much, but it was so funny. And then at the end, I was like, that was so nice. Like just being rocking myself and holding myself
Mm.
so tightly, like a little wrapped baby.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's obviously what you needed in that exact moment, and your body was telling you that very strongly.
Yeah. So there's so many different ways to regulate. There's the nose one's definitely really good, grounding yourself. Um, and it's not about moving what's in your mind out. I think sometimes people, when they think of grounding meditations, they think like you got to silence the mind. It's actually just being able to witness
Mm.
it and actually calm your body down throughout the chaos, and being anchoring yourself in
Mhm.
the moment. There's also other ways, literally just laying on the earth. No podcasts,
Mhm.
no music, no yoga music, nothing, because that can be a distraction. Just laying down and looking. If you're feeling like something that's really good for anxious people is blocking the ears and the eyes, blocking the senses out, and breathing and listening to the breath inside. And it could be, when I used to have near
Mm.
panic attacks, that's what I would do, and it would help. On a spiritual one, dark purple amethyst, very anchoring.
Yeah.
Light purple takes you up, dark purple brings you down. So, whether you're into it or not, placebo or whatever, you can hold it and just, feel that connection to something, that sensory. It's just about whatever you feel like in the moment and giving yourself space to have it. That was disjointed today. That was all over the
Mm.
show advice.
No, no, we got there. I love it. It's how we're rolling. And I love these conversations with you because it's all so intuitive, and it's like, well,
That's the
whatever
thing.
needs to come
And
through
a
is
healer, and a healer. No one knows
mm,
you better than you know you. And if you actually put aside what people tell you to do and listened, what do I need right now? The chances are you probably have the answer. Walking,
yeah.
maybe I need to lay down. I'm actually tired. I need a nap. Maybe I need some food. I just actually need to go and breathe. Or maybe I need to shake. Everyone, I reckon if they just presence, they would know what they need.
Mm, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our next topic. A good little segue. Um,